these spreads and over-unders. This is One Fat Boy, and here are my NBA game predictions for January 26th of 2022. Tonight there is 10 games. I'll be going over these spreads and over-unders. I got my data for that from FanDuel. For the Clippers at the Magic, we lean towards Orlando plus 1.5. So the main reason why we lean towards the Magic is that they didn't play last night and the Clippers did. So if the Magic just play with more energy overall, I think that should give them a edge, or at least keep them closer in the game. So overall, it's like I would just bet on Magic staying close during the game rather than like outright winning or like towards the winning side. And then the Clippers, it's just kind of sporadic which team shows up right now too. Like, are they going to be that team that scores a bunch and plays good defense, or just like doesn't score that much but keeps it close? The Clippers are just one of those teams I don't want to bet on. Then just the Magic just not being great, also another team I don't want to bet on. So personally, I wouldn't bet on this game at all. And then as for the over/under, I think Magic should just be a little more energetic than the Clippers, be able to score a decent amount, probably like above 108. But I do expect a close game for this one. Like, neither team should really pull away from each other. But in my honest opinion, this is a game that I probably not bet on, as I'm not too confident overall for this one. For Charlotte at Indiana, so I'll be leaning towards Indiana +2, and then same reason. So it's like Charlotte, they played last night, but Indiana didn't. Then also they're playing at home, so little like buffs to the Indiana to win this game, or at least keep it close overall. They also been playing with heart, which that it keeps you in games and helps you win games. So another reason why to bet for the Pacers. But personally, I would not bet on the spread for this game at all. It's just one of those things where it's like, if Charlotte gets really hot, it's just kind of hard to keep up with them. Then what if they just don't play any defense or shots not falling? That just allows Indiana just to score points at will. Hard to keep up with that too, but this is a game I wouldn't touch for the spread. For the over, maybe, because I think Charlotte, they can score a lot, and then I think Indiana will score a lot. I think it's more likely that Indiana will score a lot rather than Charlotte score a lot, just for today, just because Charlotte played last night. That's the only reason why. But Indiana, they just have those players that are just G League players. They decide to show up. It's just which one decides to show up and really just show why, like they're NBA players. But overall, I think 225 is still a little high, so I'd probably lean towards like a 221 or 220, somewhere in there. But overall, this is another game I wouldn't touch. For Milwaukee at the Cavaliers, so I always have a hard time betting for Milwaukee now just for spreads, because you just never know which team's going to show up. And also, Giannis is day-to-day. It's not 100% sure if he's going to play tonight, so that's just another reason why I won't bet for Milwaukee. Then for Cleveland, they've just been a little bit more consistent overall this year, so I'd lean towards Cleveland keeping it close. But I think overall, the under, that's probably the safest bet out of the first few games I've gone through, just because I think Cleveland and Milwaukee, they can really clamp down on defense and keep the game under like 100 points for both of them. So like betting with the under, I think is pretty safe. Want to be even safer, you can do like an under 222. But overall, I think this will be a defensive game. For the Knicks at Miami, we lean towards Miami -6.5. Miami's starting to get all their players back, and then the Knicks, I'll be honest, they do have most of their players, but you just never know which players are going to show up to play. So I just always have the hard time betting for the Knicks, so I'll just have to bet towards Miami. I will be betting under 201, as the Knicks, they always struggle on offense, but their defense is good, and their games are always low scoring for both sides. So honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if both these teams are in the 90s, or if one is in the 80s as the end of the game. So I'll be leaning towards under 201. But for the spread, I think Miami should win this. I think 6.5 might be a little bit too big of a spread, but I see that happening more likely than the Knicks being within 6.5. But personally, I would just take Miami winning. For Memphis at the Spurs, so Memphis did not play last night, but the Spurs did. But the Spurs did win by a lot, so they got proper rest, just judging how Popovich will play his players, and also they're still a pretty young team, so not going to be as affected, but I think Memphis wants to redeem their loss from their last game. So I think this 3.5 spread, I think you could almost bump that up to 6 or 7 points, and if you're really feeling it, 10, but I think a 6-point win is likely for Memphis. I will be betting the over, as the Spurs did score 134 last night, but I think Memphis will in turn score that many points. I think they'll have a very high scoring game, as they scored 91 last game. I think they'd likely want to just put the ball in the hoop. I don't know. They've consistently have high scoring games by them, and having 91 points, they want to change the tune of that. And Spurs, I think they'll be able to keep up with Memphis for a few quarters, but I think they should be able to still score 105 overall. But Memphis should come up with a win. For the Kings at the Hawks, so the Kings had a horrid night last night, and the Hawks did not play last night, so the Kings, well, they're going to be rested because their starters didn't play, especially that fourth quarter when you're down by 50. But I think the Hawks, they should just take care of the Kings again. I mean, Sacramento will probably lose. The Hawks should win this if they lose. If the Hawks lose, that's kind of embarrassing. I will expect a high-scoring game overall, as the Kings will give up a lot of points. If they give up 128 again, like they did against Boston, they just have to score 105 to cover this spread. But I think Atlanta, they shoot a lot of threes, and if they get off from threes, they can have over 130. But I do expect at least 120 from Atlanta, as what defense from the Kings is going to stop them. As long as Atlanta makes their shots, they should cover both spreads, no problem. For Denver at Brooklyn, so both teams played last night, and both teams had fairly close games. I will lean towards Brooklyn +1, as throughout the season, it's not very often they have two bad games back-to-back. So I'm just going to go with the trend that they're not going to have two games that are bad that they play back-to-back. So I'm just going to lean towards Brooklyn +1. Personally, I would not bet this spread. I wouldn't bet on either team winning. And overall, it's I just lean towards one team just moving their spreads +5 or 6, and just betting who you think will win. But personally, I wouldn't bet the spread. It'd be better probably bet the over for 221.5, as I'm sure the Nets want to score more than 96 points. And then Denver, they'll probably score about the same amount they did last night, somewhere between 110, 120. I know that's a big range, but they're a decent offensive team. I think no one on Brooklyn should slow them down, and the Nets, it's not like they're going to have two bad offense games back-to-back. Harden will be fine, but all the role players play bad again? I don't think so, but over 221.5. Choose who you want for the spread. I just will lean towards Brooklyn just having a better game. For Toronto at the Bulls, I'm going with Chicago -4.5. They are starting to play a little better now they've got Levine back. So hence I'll be leaning towards Toronto. I mean, not Toronto, Chicago. Toronto played last night, and another reason why I'm leaning towards the Bulls. Also, they're playing at home. Another boost for them. But overall, I think Chicago should win. This is a game that they should come out with. Get a win against a team that's trying to fight for some playoff position while you secure your spot towards the top. So they should come out and win. I will be leaning towards under 217.5, as I think their defense should be able to slow down Toronto. They did play last night, so as long as Chicago brings some effort, a lot of effort, they should come out with this win. Their offense, I don't know which offensive for the Bulls is going to come out with. Are they going to be hot like they were last game, or just be flat in some of their previous games where they even break 100 points? So that's why I'm going to lean towards that. They'll play good defense and maybe just kind of have a game with an under 217.5. But this is one of those ones where I'd probably change the spread, try to make it more safe. For the Suns at the Jazz, I'll be going to Phoenix minus 4.5. I know they have a few more injuries, and they'll have to rely more on Bismack Biyombo and Jalen Smith. But I think with Donovan Mitchell and Gobert being out, this is still the Suns' games to lose. Like the two best players on the Jazz. I think those two are the two best players on the Jazz. If your two best players are out, I think it's hard for you to win. And the Suns, they just play too good, especially in the fourth quarter, that they should come out with this win. 4.5 spread, they should be able to cover that. That shouldn't be a problem either. Over to 20.5, I think that's also very possible too, as the Suns, they'll have to play a little smaller, so maybe a little faster pace overall. Might chuck a few more threes than usual just because they're playing a smaller ball, as their two like main centers are out. And then Jazz, I don't know, their offense is always sporadic. I think they'll probably score about the same as they did last time against the Suns, or unless the Suns like download the Jazz halfway through the game, they just clamp down on them. But I don't think that'll happen, but I think it's more likely that the Suns will just blow them out. But then again, I am a Suns fan, so I'd like to see that happen. But I think over 220.5, I'd maybe just bump that down to 217.5 over, but I think they can cover the 220.5. For Dallas at Portland, we lean towards Dallas minus 4. So both these teams played last night, but I think Dallas is just the better team. They were blown out against the Warriors, so that gives some more rest toward your starters. And coming off a bad loss, I think you would like to come and get a win. So I'm just going to bet on Dallas, going for that, trying to redeem themselves over last night. And against a weaker Portland team, I think that is possible. It should be possible. Dallas, if they want to stay in the playoffs, they have to win this game. And then I think their defense will really slow down Portland, and Portland's offense been up and down. I think they've been playing better offensively, but up and down still. But under 217.5, just because Dallas's defense will slow them down, and then Dallas's offense, it's basically just like this. As long as you have a good game, get everyone involved, then that's a good offensive night. But they're not scoring like 130, like 120 tops, but probably end up being like 110 they score. So under 217. Thank you for watching. Comment any of your thoughts on the games, and once again, thanks for watching.